Something has been feeling off, and I need you to understand that the feeling you have been carrying, that quiet, persistent sense that something in your close circle is not fully what it appears to be, is not anxiety, and it is not paranoia, and it is not the product of an overactive imagination. It is intelligence. It is the most sophisticated form of intelligence available to a human soul, the kind that operates below the threshold of conscious reasoning and above the threshold of ordinary emotion, the kind that registers truth before the mind has assembled enough evidence to confirm it. You have been feeling it in the pauses that are slightly too long, in the responses that answer a different question than the one you asked, in the energy of a particular person that has shifted in a way you cannot fully articulate but cannot stop noticing, in the moments where a conversation ended just a fraction too quickly when you moved toward a certain topic. Something is being withheld from you by someone who is close enough to you that the withholding matters, close enough that what they are concealing has weight for your path, your decisions, your understanding of your own life. And the reason you are feeling it so clearly right now, the reason the signal has become impossible to dismiss, is that something far above the level of ordinary human perception has turned up the frequency deliberately so that you would not miss it. Across the entire history of spiritual wisdom, across every tradition that has ever attempted to document the relationship between divine intelligence and human discernment, one understanding appears with remarkable consistency and is honored with remarkable reverence. The understanding that the soul knows before the mind does, that there is a faculty of perception available to human beings that operates independently of evidence, independently of logic, independently of the social pressure to extend trust and assume the best and not make things complicated by listening to what cannot be proven. The ancient traditions did not call this suspicion. They called it discernment, and they treated it as one of the highest and most sacred capacities a soul could develop. The reason this capacity is so rare in its fully developed form is that the world works very hard to suppress it. Social systems reward the performance of trust. Relationships are structured around the agreement to interpret ambiguous signals generously. The cultural pressure to not create conflict, to not be the person who sees problems where others see nothing, to not disrupt the comfort of a group by naming what the group has collectively agreed not to name. All of it conspires to silence the signal before it can reach the level of conscious awareness. And yet, in you, it has not been silenced. It has been growing louder. And what is happening right now is that the divine intelligence which seeded this capacity in you is confirming that the signal you are receiving is real. Let me bring this into the specific texture of your recent experience, because what I am describing is not abstract, and it connects directly to something you have already been living. Think about the last several interactions you have had with this person. Not the content of what was said, but the quality of the space around what was said. Think about the moments where you felt a subtle pulling back that had no explanation attached to it. The times where the warmth that used to move freely between you seemed to pass through something before it reached you, something invisible but palpable, a filter that was not there before. Think about the question you asked, maybe directly, maybe indirectly, that received an answer which was technically responsive, but somehow did not land as complete. Think about the moment you looked at this person and something in you, not your fear and not your insecurity, but something far steadier than either of those, registered that you were not seeing the full picture. And think about what you did with that registration. You probably did not confront. You probably did not accuse. You probably held it, turned it over, gave the benefit of the doubt, continued to show up with the same quality of care and presence you always bring, because that is the kind of soul you are. That choice to hold what you knew with patience rather than react with it was not passivity. It was wisdom, and it was being watched. Now I need to tell you something that will reframe the entire experience you have been having with this unsettled feeling, because what I am about to say is the piece that changes everything. You have not been the only one aware of what is being withheld. There are forces, both those that operate in darkness and those that operate in light, that have been watching the dynamic forming in your close circle with a quality of attention that far exceeds anything available to ordinary human observation. The dark forces, the ones that use concealment and withheld information as primary tools of disruption, they were involved in the conditions that allowed this secret to form and be maintained. Secrets of this kind do not sustain themselves through the effort of one person alone. They require an atmosphere of distraction, of misaligned timing, of subtle energetic interference that keeps the truth just far enough below the surface that it cannot quite break through. That atmosphere was constructed, and it was constructed specifically around you, because what you are carrying in this season of your life, the direction you are moving, the purpose that is forming in you, is significant enough that disrupting your clarity and your relationships is worth the investment of whatever forces benefit from your confusion. And on the other side, the divine has been watching with a completely different intention, waiting for the exact moment to make the signal so clear that even your generosity could no longer explain it away. Let me walk through the pattern that has been documented across this season of your life, because the way you have handled what you have been sensing reveals a quality of character that needs to be named and honored. There was a moment where you noticed the shift in this person and chose to create space for them rather than pressure them, operating from the understanding that people sometimes withdraw for reasons that have nothing to do with you, and that the most loving response is patience rather than demand. There was a conversation where something did not add up and you registered it clearly and then consciously chose not to weaponize the gap, not to store it as evidence against them, but to hold it lightly and continue showing up with the same openness you had always brought. There was a time where someone outside the situation made a comment, something small, something that could have been nothing, and it landed on top of what you had already been sensing in a way that made the picture slightly clearer, and you did not rush to conclusions. You sat with it. There was a moment where you almost asked the direct question and then pulled back, not from fear, but from a discernment that the timing was not yet right, that something needed to be allowed to surface in its own way, rather than forced into the open before it was ready. Each of these responses was a demonstration of spiritual maturity that most souls do not reach without decades of deliberate development. There is a classification within the architecture of divine intelligence for souls who have developed the specific combination of sensitivity and restraint that you have demonstrated throughout this situation. Sensitivity without restraint becomes reactivity, the soul that feels everything and responds to everything immediately, creating chaos wherever it goes. Restraint without sensitivity becomes numbness, the soul that has protected itself so thoroughly from feeling that it can no longer receive the signals that are trying to reach it. But the combination, the soul that feels with precision and holds what it feels with wisdom, that waits for clarity without losing the signal in the waiting, that trusts its own perception without needing external validation to act on it, that classification is extraordinarily rare. The higher beings responsible for identifying souls who have reached this threshold have been observing your navigation of this situation with a level of attention that reflects the significance of what you have demonstrated. They have noted the precision of your discernment, the quality of your restraint, the faithfulness with which you have continued to show up with integrity in a situation where you already knew, at some level, that the full truth was not available to you. And they have determined that a soul with this quality of developed perception has reached the threshold where the concealment it has been navigating with such grace is no longer something it needs to navigate without support. The support is now being activated. And I want to tell you what has been happening at the level of divine attention throughout this entire period, because what was occurring behind the scenes of your ordinary experience was far more significant than anything visible on the surface. The archangels assigned to the domains of truth and discernment, those vast intelligences whose specific function includes the protection of souls whose path requires clear perception to navigate. They have been present in every interaction you have had with this situation. They were present in the moments when the signal in you became loud enough that you almost acted on it and something held you back. because what held you back was not accident or indecision, but divine timing, the recognition at a level above conscious, awareness that the revelation needed to come in the right way and at the right moment to serve your highest good rather than simply your immediate relief. They witnessed the quality of your patience, the integrity of your continued care for someone who is not giving you the full truth, the faithfulness with which you refuse to let what you were sensing turn you bitter or closed or preemptively defensive. And in the language that exists beyond words, a determination was made. The soul navigating this with such precision, such grace, such genuine commitment to handling truth wisely rather than reactively. That soul is ready to receive what it has been prepared to receive. The concealment is going to break. And when it does, you will be ready. And so the decree has been issued, and it carries two simultaneous activations that are inseparable from each other. The first is the activation of full clarity, the divine authorization for what has been withheld to surface in a way, and at a time that allows you to receive it with the wisdom you have developed, rather than the reactivity that would have been understandable, but would not have served you. The second is the activation of your identity as a soul whose discernment operates at a level that can now be fully trusted and fully honored, not just by you, but by the structures of reality that support the fulfillment of your purpose. The universe has looked at how you have handled this season of sensing without knowing, of perceiving without being able to confirm, of continuing to move with integrity through a situation that was not giving you full information, and it has determined that you have passed the threshold. The concealment that has been creating distortion in your close circle is losing the spiritual authority to maintain itself. The conditions that allowed it to persist are being withdrawn. And what replaces those conditions is something that could only be given to a soul that demonstrated it could handle truth without being destroyed by it, without using it as a weapon, without allowing it to permanently alter the quality of their character. You have demonstrated that, and the decree reflects it. So let me tell you who you are, because this experience, as disorienting as it has been revealing something about your nature that deserves to be named with full clarity. You are an ancient soul, which means the discernment you carry is not simply a personality trait or a learned skill. It is the accumulated perception of a consciousness that has moved through enough human experience to develop a relationship with truth that operates at a frequency most souls cannot access in a single lifetime. You are a seer in the original sense of that word, not in the dramatic sense of visions and prophecy, but in the quiet and precise sense of a soul that perceives what is real beneath what is performed, what is true, beneath what is presented, what is actually happening beneath the surface of what is being carefully managed for your consumption. You are a chosen one, not because you are exempt from the pain of being misled by people you trust, but because the way you move through that pain without losing your essential character is the very quality that makes you capable of the next level of your purpose. The concealment you have been navigating was not sent to destroy you. It was the final examination in a curriculum of discernment that has been running for longer than this single situation, and you have completed it with a quality of grace that heaven itself has witnessed and ratified. And now that the activation has been confirmed and your identity as a soul of developed discernment has been sealed, the mission becomes specific and clear. Your purpose is to carry wisdom into relationships and communities that are suffering from the consequences of things left unsaid, truths left unspoken, dynamics left unnamed because the social cost of naming them felt too high. You are not here to be a confronter or an exposer in the aggressive sense. You are here to be the kind of presence that makes truth feel safe enough to surface. That creates the quality of atmosphere in which concealment becomes unnecessary, because honesty is not punished. You are here to model what it looks like to hold discernment without weaponizing it, to know something without immediately deploying that knowledge in ways that serve your ego rather than the situation. You are here to demonstrate that spiritual awareness and relational wisdom are not in conflict, that you can perceive the full truth of a situation and still choose the most compassionate and constructive response to it. The people in your circle, the ones who have been concealing something, they are not your enemies. They are souls operating from their own fear, their own limitations, their own unresolved relationship with truth. And you, of all the people in their lives, are the one most equipped to hold the space for something more honest to emerge. And because the mission is real and the activation is complete, the material structures of your life have already begun to reorganize themselves around the clarity that is coming. Notice what has been shifting in the quality of your perception lately, because the sharpening has already begun. Conversations that used to feel opaque are becoming more legible to you. The signals you used to second guess are landing with more confidence, not because you have become more suspicious, but because you have become more calibrated. The relationships in your life are beginning to sort themselves, with the ones built on genuine honesty drawing closer, and the ones that require you to pretend not to notice things you notice becoming harder to sustain at the level of investment you have previously maintained in them. Opportunities are beginning to appear that are aligned with a version of you that fully trusts its own perception. Opportunities that could not have reached you while you were still caught in the loop of doubting what you clearly sensed. The financial, creative, and relational dimensions of your life are beginning to reflect the return of the energy you have been spending on navigating concealment. Energy that is now being redirected toward building what is actually meant for you. These are not coincidences. They are the natural consequence of a soul whose clarity has been restored by divine intervention, and the clarity you are developing does not stay contained within your own experience. This is what I need you to understand about the effect your discernment has on the people around you. When a soul that has developed genuine perceptive wisdom moves through a community, something happens to the quality of honesty available in that community. It cannot be manufactured through rules or expectations or social pressure. People around you begin to feel, without being able to fully explain why, that pretense is harder to maintain in your presence. Not because you challenge them or call them out, but because something in your frequency creates an atmosphere in which the gap between what is real and what is being performed becomes uncomfortable to sustain. Some of the people in your circle who are currently concealing something will find, as you step more fully into the activated version of your discernment, that the effort required to maintain the concealment becomes greater than the relief it provides. The truth will begin to surface not because you forced it, but because your presence made the concealment too costly to continue. And when it surfaces because you have moved through this season with wisdom, rather than reactivity, you will be equipped to receive it in a way that serves everyone involved, including the person who is not yet ready to tell it, and you are not alone in navigating this. Right now across this world, there are thousands of souls in the middle of their own version of what you have been experiencing. That specific disorientation of sensing that something in a trusted relationship is not fully what it appears to be, of carrying a perception that they cannot yet confirm, and that the world around them is not validating. They are sitting with the same quiet, persistent feeling you have been sitting with. They are giving the same benefit of the doubt you have been giving. They are demonstrating the same quality of patient discernment without confrontation that you have demonstrated. And they are being prepared as you are being prepared for the moment when what they have been sensing is confirmed, and they discover that the confirmation was always going to come, that the divine always intended for the truth to surface, and that the entire season of sensing without knowing was not wasted time, but essential preparation. As each of these souls steps into the clarity of their activation, the collective quality of discernment available to human relationships increases. The possibility of honesty in communities grows. The world becomes incrementally more capable of handling truth with wisdom, rather than violence with grace, rather than reactivity, with the understanding that revelation is not rupture, but the necessary beginning of something more real. So, here is what this moment requires from you, because receiving this understanding is only the beginning, and what you do with it in the next few minutes matters in ways that extend beyond what you can currently see. Comment 777 right now, because that number is your declaration that you receive this, that you trust what you have been sensing. that you are claiming the identity of a soul whose discernment is a divine instrument and not a personal flaw, and that you are ready for the clarity that is already moving toward you. Share this with the one person whose name appeared somewhere in the middle of this message, the one who is also carrying something they sense but cannot yet confirm, because they need to know that what they are feeling is real and that they are being prepared to handle it wisely and not alone. Subscribe and stay connected, because what is being built in this space is specifically designed for souls, navigating the intersection of spiritual awareness and relational complexity, and what comes next will carry exactly what you need for the season you are entering. And go back and watch this alone if there was any noise or any other presence around you while you received it, because what was spoken over your discernment and your clarity and your readiness to handle truth does not fully activate until it is received in a stillness that your soul already knows how to find.